Hey guys, Dan here with our special guest Merlin. It's time once again for Dan Does Disney, and we have Tim joining for the more off the beaten path ones, but you are joining for all the major animated releases, and boy is this one of them. Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah.
We're up to this 1951's Alice in Wonderland, a movie that people did not care for when it first came out.
You know,
and we may find out why that is.
I think I could actually understand that.
So, so as we do, we'll sort of go over the history of the movie, talk about the movie, and then I have this wonderful DVD edition,
beautiful
special unanniversary edition. It's called
unanniversary
because, of course, a very merry unbirthday, very merry unanniversary, and then they released a regular anniversary edition 2 years later. So let's come on,
Disney.
What are we doing, Disney?
Money.
But this is on Disney Plus, right? Is that how you watched it?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
I forgot to look. Usually I look to see if they have bonus features on there. But anyway, so this came out in 1951. $3 million to make this movie.
$3 million.
Very hefty price tag back then.
A lot of animators I noticed in the opening.
Yes, a lot of animators. Some of them are part of the 9 old men that we learned about last time with Cinderella. But here's the rub. This thing only made $2.4 million. It was a money loser for the studio.
Lost money.
The first one on this big of a scale, maybe ever. Or at least maybe since Fantasia.
Fantasia
lost a lot of money. Very bold. I guess actually a couple of those early ones lost money because of the whole war thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, Cinderella was a huge hit, as we learned. But this also did not get great critical reviews. Drubbed by the critics, actually. And of course, in retrospect, of course, they all were like, oh, this movie's great. Well, we'll see what we think of the movie.
Exactly.
But anyway,
Cinderella people.
But it was such a kind of bomb that it never got re-released in Walt's lifetime.
What?
Yeah, not in theaters. Now it did run on the second episode of the TV show, the Disneyland show.
Wow.
So he ran it on TV a couple of times, but it didn't get re-released until 1974.
Perfect time.
And then it was good. It made $3.5 million. So then it finally, broke even, and then again in 1981. However, what really got the ball rolling for that 1974 re-release was that in the early 70s, college campuses started running it.
I'll bet they did.
For the psychedelic factor.
Yeah.
In fact, it was the top rented film on college campuses several different times.
I could believe it.
And in fact, so much so, they were so in on the joke at Disney that in 1974 for the re-release, they actually were using White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane in the ads.
That's awesome.
So,
That's awesome.
So there we go. And we learned that this happened a little bit in the 60s with Fantasia.
Yeah.
We learned about that.
That kind of had to come back in the 60s with all the visuals.
This was sort of the 70s version of that, which makes sense. I guess
let's lose Carol,
maybe, I don't really know how colleges and movie rentals worked back then.
Rent a reel for
I guess you rent a reel from
projector,
the studio itself, maybe, for your projector, and then you run it.
Local distributor.
And then I guess you sell tickets to it. I don't know. I mean, like when I was at Shippensburg, we had movie nights, but they were all on VHS. They just went down to the video store and maybe they had to license it too. I don't know, but
I know in the 80s that a lot of there were,
because this would have been before VHS tapes.
It would have literally still been.
They would have had to have
projector reels and setup,
reel.
which I feel like a lot of colleges might have had film.
I guess so. Yeah, especially if they had like a
festivals or
if they had any sort of like AV club or
like some could rent
TV
something
station
like call
or
in
whatever.
directly to Disney and say that's interesting.
So
that's interesting.
But that popularity prompted them to do the 74 re-release. All right, so these stories were around obviously since the 1800s. Walt read them growing up,
of course.
So of course he had the affinity to it. But so what he did was something I've actually been really looking into the last, I would say, year, is really the history of the original pre-Mickey Disney cartoons.
Oh, okay.
And so in the 1920s, 1923 specifically, he made the first of what he called the Alice comedies. And it was a hybrid of animation and live action, which Walt, of course, does very well. It's his thing, but this is one of the precursors to some of the movies. And what he would do was the very first one, which is a bonus feature on this DVD, by the way, which I had never seen till today. He basically has this live action girl go in to visit his studio, and he shows her all these cool live animation things or whatever. Not live animation, but he like holds up an easel and he's like, "Here's what I'm working on, honey." And so they show the animations. So then the second 2/3 of it is then Alice goes home and starts dreaming about all the crazy stuff she saw in the comics, and then she enters sort of into this wonderland.
Huh.
And so this was a whole series, and I've been trying to actually track down. There's one DVD set that I have to get that has like 10 of them collected, but these are from the 20s.
So this is like another passion project thing for him.
Yes, I love. Yes,
he's keeping it going.
I'm keeping it going. So, so they've put a couple of these old Alice comedies on the DVDs, and they look. I was blown away that it's from 1922. Like, it looks so well preserved.
Really?
So anyway, so he did a whole bunch of those Alice comedies, and then he had his eye on making a full-length animation live-action hybrid in the 30s. But was it Warner or Paramount? Paramount. Paramount did an Alice movie that tanked.
Oh,
so he said in 33.
Yeah.
So he was like, I don't know about that. So he had talked to Mary Pickford, which was one of the hot people of the day. I think she actually is one of the United Artists of the United Artists. Yeah.
Oh.
I think it was Pickford. There was like 4 of them, I think, that were United Artists. Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, Douglas Fairbanks, I think. But anyway.
Nice.
So that fell apart, obviously. And so then he decided to shift gears, but still kept the idea of doing something with it. So in 1936, he did a Mickey Mouse short called Through the Mirror, which is also on this DVD, and it's basically Mickey's sort of
Alice in Wonderland.
like Alice in Wonderland trip in 8 minutes. And so, he did that. And then in 38, he bought the rights to the illustrations from the book.
Ooh.
Because the book had all those wonderful original illustrations.
Yeah.
So now he really was kind of getting things back in motion. Then the war happened. We all know what happened for that, because the Dan Does Disney. And then in 1945, he reimagined it. Again, though, it was going to be a live-action hybrid. And Ginger Rogers of Ginger Rogers from Fred Astaire fame was going to be the star of it then. And he hired Aldous Huxley to rewrite the screenplay. Now, I don't know if you know that name.
That's weird.
Big writer back in the day. Brave New World was his big book. But I know that very well because the Peacock streamer that just went on has a Brave New World series.
Oh.
So I just watched the Brave New World pilot episode this morning.
Oh, wow.
So when I learned Aldous Huxley was involved in this, I was like, wow, that's nuts.
That's an interesting writer pick.
I don't know how much of what he rewrote was kept. It didn't really tell me that, but
that was something I also noticed too when I'm looking at the credits. This movie had like 8 people in the story credits. I'm like, what?
Yes.
A lot of rewrites here.
So, so basically,
for the segments,
he decided finally a couple years after that the only way to really do this was full animation, because everything is just too fantastical. Obviously, there were no CGI. I mean, right? Like, it would have been hard to do an entire movie, essentially, of just crazy sight things and
it would have just been literally
forced perspective.
The Alice character live action behind like the blue screen.
Right.
Like that's what it would have had to have been.
Right. Which of course.
What defeats the...
It would have been stupid. So, I mean, let's just be real. Like, the live-action hybrid stuff that he did so far was like Donald Duck goes to a dance in South America, and, there's a hot lady there.
It's
like,
better when it's animation in live action, I think.
Yes, I agree. And we've seen that time and again. Tim and I certainly have seen that a lot.
Song of the South.
Those packages. Song of the South, though, is a good example of one that you saw like that, yeah. So... I just don't think it would have worked.
Probably not.
So I'm glad they went a different route on it. So, but that's pretty much the background. That's how we ended up with Alice in Wonderland. But like you said, pretty much there were a ton of different animators working on it, because basically everywhere she goes, every piece of this Wonderland was done by a different animator. And so a lot of them were working on Cinderella at the time, a lot of them were working on Peter Pan at the time. So this was something where they could just come in,
do a thing for
thing for about 8 minutes of of footage or whatever, or 6 minutes of footage, and then go back to their day job doing Peter Pan.
That's interesting. This is a side gig for a bunch of
people. So
people.
this was a side gig for a lot of the people. And it's funny, they mention in one of the featurettes on the DVD, and of course at the end I'll get to all the special features, but they mention that woman that we had talked about in Cinderella, but she doesn't appear on the animators list.
I was wondering, I didn't see her name.
No, so I wonder if she was more of a consultant for this, because she was so heavily involved in Cinderella.
Yeah.
You know, so maybe she didn't have time to fully do some of the stuff here. But so that's basically the background. Now let's talk about the movie itself. And Joe's going to tell us. I mean, if you don't know the plot of Alice in Wonderland by now, I don't know. But
this might be one of the easiest plot summaries ever.
It really is.
Alice is, just not interested in the history lesson she's being given. So she sees a white rabbit who says he's very late and follows him, and he's rabbit can talk, because why not? And follows him down the rabbit hole and tumbles, and then she's in Wonderland, everything's weird, and she has to meet all these weird characters, and everything's topsy-turvy, and she tries to get home, and there's the Cheshire Cat, Tweedledee-Tweedledum, Alice the Carpenter,
Mad Hatter,
Hammer Chair, the Queen, the cards, the caterpillar, the flowers, like Alice in Wonderland. It's that, but Disney.
Yes, the Disney version,
which is that's it. Like that's pretty bare bones. Which is all right.
So okay, you give the synopses, or you give the review first, because because that's how it works here. Because I do all the blathering up front about the background.
Put me on the spot.
I mean, I'll tell you right now. I mean, if you want to hear my one sentence review before you go do your synopsis, so you don't influence me or whatever, it's easily the worst of the full length animated features we've seen.
Okay,
so that's where I'll start.
I was hoping there wasn't going to be a debate, because I'll be honest. All right, okay, I'll try to sum this up. Okay, I haven't.
Well, let's find out why.
Okay, I haven't seen Alice in Wonderland in probably a good 20 years or so.
You know, I don't know if I've ever seen this version in full.
Really?
I don't know. I've seen certainly the Mad Hatter scene. I've seen a couple of sequences, but it's funny, the version I remember the most was the TV version
From
they did
the
with
90s,
Whoopi Goldberg.
With Whoopi.
I saw, because we had that on the VHS, and at the time there were much younger children in my house, and we watched that a lot.
More than the Disney one.
Much more than this one. I know we didn't own this, so we may have rented it once, but
this is another one that I owned, and it's kind of falls into that vein of like the classic ones that I watched a lot very young.
Okay.
And, might not have loved it, so I didn't come back to it as much, but I was saying, okay.
There were a lot of those.
A lot of the early Disneys, I kind of felt the same way. I thought they were kind of disturbing, and most of them, I've come back with you, and I've actually found that I enjoy them. I appreciate them a lot. Pinocchio is the big one.
Yeah.
Really, but
Cinderella too. I mean,
Cinderella.
We did Cinderella the other week. I was blown away.
I thought I was gonna hate it, because that was like always kind of the one I was least interested in watching. But I thought Cinderella was very good for what it was. Actually, I really did. As far as this one goes, all right, I kind of obviously like Lewis Carroll, and I like the Alice in Wonderland idea concept, and I find it very interesting, because in some ways it makes perfect sense for Disney to want to do this, because it lends itself to animation, and with Fantasia we saw he likes cool visuals and experimentation, so that was that. So it works. I think this actually would probably segue a lot, when you're going to have a lot of insight with the videos you've been doing with Tim, because most of the stuff you've been talking about has been the segments, and this is kind of like this, sold as a full length.
It's interesting. I was thinking the same thing.
And all the ones I've watched, and really most of the ones that are beloved are one main plot.
Yes.
And this is kind of the exception.
I completely agree. I was thinking of that today, that it really... It acts like
one of those.
One of the package, and a lot of the package ones I went over with Tim were just sort of all vignettes. But what this is most like is those Three Caballeros movies, because that was at least like Donald Duck and his buddies throughout, like they were going from land to land.
Like there's a thin plot thread.
But there it was.
And I'll be honest, as I was watching, I'm thinking, okay, well, there's a part of me that wants to criticize this, because like, for what I've come to expect from Disney, the plots aren't like, that in depth or anything.
No.
But like, there's something.
Right.
And in this one, there is barely a story. But then again, looking at the source material, it is just silly little allegories of stories as she wanders the world. So accurate adaptation.
Okay.
So I can't be too hard on it for that. But if I was gonna read Lewis Carroll, I'd read it in snippets. Like
Right,
I'm
okay.
not a huge fan to be like that.
Yeah, I feel like I have probably read the original book. This is based on two different books.
Two different
but,
books mixed
But
together.
I read, I'm sure, I guess, the original Alice in Wonderland. I don't think I read Through the Looking
And
Glass.
I'm not gonna pretend like I'm the biggest fan. I like the world, a lot of like the different versions, and they play around. I like when they kind of make it more horrific or something.
Okay.
They played around with that. Burton did a little. I like some of that. It's very easy to go that direction.
Did you see both the Burton movies?
I did.
That second one was god awful.
With the time guy
Yes.
with the Sacha Baron Cohen.
Yes,
Father Time.
yes.
That-
I think we were still doing Film Fanatics at the time.
Yeah,
so we might have reviewed
I think
that,
the first one's okay.
My God,
But
I actually really liked the first one.
first one's okay, and I'll be honest, like
To be
there was
completely fair.
also like a video game, a computer game was released like in the early 2000s.
I have a whole list of
It's
like
dark.
the appearances of these characters in different Disney
Like-
media. They are
Yeah.
all over these video games.
The lizard.
The lizard.
The lizard. We did a lizard with a ladder.
The
Bill, he pops
Cheshire
up.
Cat pops up in a lot of different things. Yeah, it's interesting.
So they stick around. It has
Which makes sense because they're, other than just, here's a princess, here's a prince, here's the evil stepmother. I get it. There's a lot of colorful characters here. I get it.
There's a lot of colorful characters, and I think, let's see. I was trying to think. All of these Disney movies kind of have a moral, and I'm like, I guess I know what the message is, but it's a little unclear to me. Listen, study, like, if I was going, like, if I was gonna have all the books, they wouldn't have pictures because you're unintelligent. Like just study more, take things more. Like, okay, not too much nonsense is bad. I thought there was some conflicting themes.
And you've also touched on one of my biggest issues with this movie.
I'm like, what's
just as the whole.
Uh-huh.
There's no heart to it. Like all these other characters, like
Alright.
there's.
I might have a rebuttal.
Okay.
But go on.
I just think like when you said like there's no maybe real moral, I think there's no real heart.
Okay,
in this
you took it a
movie.
step further.
Yeah, I just feel like
I
it is just
Alright.
a girl who I don't know may or may not be spoiled. We don't really know much about her, but she goes and has her adventures and that's fine.
Yeah. Okay.
But every other movie, it's like you get a warm feeling, or
You want them to succeed.
you want them to succeed.
And I'll admit. All right. I'm gonna try and help. I'm gonna try to be devil's advocate here on this.
Okay,
one.
I want you to be.
Okay, because I had mixed feelings too.
We haven't had a good debate on a Dan Does Disney in a while.
This isn't. I mean, well, yeah, no, but this it's weird. I didn't think I'd be defending anything.
Yeah.
But okay, no, it's weird. I didn't expect that. Okay, all right. So Alice in this movie, I have mixed feelings about her.
Okay.
Because I think on one hand, she's probably the most realistic, fleshed out female protagonist we've had thus far. Like
Female, I guess so.
I could believe it. I could believe it.
Yeah, for females, I suppose that's probably
Compared to
true.
the other princess, like okay, so she's a little bit,
His boys are so well written, though. All right.
50s.
Yeah.
Like a comparison
Alright.
to like the other characters. I'm just saying
No, you're wrong.
she's up for believability. Okay, she's spacey. She doesn't want to pay attention. She just lets her imagination run wild. She's naive, but she does want to listen.
Okay.
She does try to imitate. Like, okay, you're doing this. I'll
Right,
go on to
right,
fit
okay.
in. Like, but she's kind of ditzy. But she's not really dumb. Like, is she?
No, I'm not saying she's dumb.
No, she's just. But like, she seems like she's a kid.
Yeah, she's a kid.
And I have to believe she has a wild imagination because she. All right, I think even for an old Disney movie like this, her going into the world should have had more of like an impact. She's just kind of like
none.
I remember literally thinking like, okay, she goes down. But she's literally like, bye, cat. Like,
Yeah,
so you've accepted this instantaneously.
I hated that.
You've accepted this instantaneously.
If you've not seen this movie, she literally falls down the hole.
Bye-bye.
And she just was like, bye,
Like
bye, cat.
it's like she knows she's starting the movie.
accepted it.
She's,
Right,
she's like, okay,
right.
I'm going to warn. Like more than like.
All right, to compare to something, what movie does this remind you of, though?
In the Disney canon.
No, not a Disney movie, but a movie that had been out before this. What's my favorite?
Your favorite is wow. Wait, what? Cinderella. Wait, what?
No, not Disney.
Not Disney.
No.
Movie that came out before.
Yes.
Oh. Wait. I'm
The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The Alice in Wonderland Wizard of Oz comparison is obvious.
It's obvious throughout this thing.
They're similar, yeah.
Oh, they're more than similar. I mean, at one point, the Cheshire Cat literally says, some people go this way and some people go this way.
Dan, before you get
It's
mad,
lifted.
Alice in Wonderland came out before
The book.
Oz books.
The books
did.
But this is not word for word from the book.
No,
Right?
Neither was the Oz stuff.
Neither was the Oz stuff. I agree.
Don't, you see, you got some issues
Hold
with
on.
the Oz.
Hold on.
See, no, I see, okay.
I agree. The Alice in Wonderland book came out before the Oz books.
Yes.
Okay. But they were straight lifting from the Oz movie. But here's my point. My point is...
Bye. Oh no, I'm in a tornado. Like, she's like, what is
Yes.
happening? I'm scared to death.
Yes.
It takes her a while to accept it. I got you.
But my point is...
Dorothy's better.
What happened at the end? Dorothy's so much better. But what happened at the end of that movie?
Moral, heart.
She comes
sad,
back to the
home,
black and white home.
family.
Oh, I've missed you so much. This had none of that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about when I'm saying there's no heart. I'm not saying she's dumb. I'm just, although she is, by the way,
So
constantly surprised. Every new place she goes to and every new person she meets, she's like,
Right.
oh, really?
Yeah. Remember, the worst one for me was,
Oh,
remember when... Okay. Remember...
The mushroom?
No, not the mushroom, actually. The mushroom is even worse.
The smoking
The
caterpillar?
Alright. The freaking...
They're all
No,
terrible.
when she the first tries to get through the door and she does the eat me, drink me, and...
Oh,
so she
yeah.
went through all that, well, okay, and then later on she goes in the house, oh, thank you, don't you remember what the cookies
That's what
were?
I said too. I said,
like-
bitch, what are you doing?
But I know we're both getting mad about this, and I think
All right.
that's funny, but remember, this is based on Lewis Carroll where things are supposed to be silly, and it's more of an allegory anyway with fables. It's not supposed to be
Yes.
taken seriously.
I understand that.
But for some reason, as a plot in a film that's like an hour long, it gets kind of frustrating.
Well, and here's my thing. Of the other iterations I've seen, obviously, like I said, I'm very familiar with the 90s version.
More plot.
With Whoopi. But the Depp version that Disney made in 2010.
It's more of a sequel.
Well, I guess that's true.
Technically.
But, Mad Hatter was still in it. But you're right, it's more of like the Return to Oz of...
It's supposed to be a sequel to this movie.
You're right.
It's supposed to be a sequel.
I kind of forgot that, because I'd never seen
But
this
it's
before.
basically a remake.
But it's so much better.
Ooh.
But I agree.
Ooh.
No, it is. I'm sorry. It is.
See, a lot of people hate that movie, but I kind of...
A lot of people hate the Depp Wonka, too, and I think that's okay.
Look, it's alright.
But,
it's not Gene Wilder. But, okay.
No, who could be? But the point is...
I probably like that one a little better, too. And it feels wrong to say
There you
that.
go. I like it better. A little bit.
But
they're both very good. But, look, I'm not saying I'm giving this movie an F, I'm not fan of this movie, but the point is...
I don't really love it, though.
I don't love it.
I don't
It's
love this movie.
easily the worst of the full-length animated...
That we've seen.
It's easily the worst I've seen with you.
Yeah.
Now, am I going to grade it as low as Song of the South? Probably not. It's not racist, but...
No.
But it just... everything that we're saying, I understand it's based on the books. I understand it's for children.
I'm trying to give it the benefit of a doubt. Like,
And
I
we
get
can give
it.
it the benefit of that. I think... And I tried to think hard about what my grade is going to be for this. I think it's going to be a slightly above average grade for what it is, but it's just
a
not
Disney
that
animated.
good.
It's like Pixar. We always compare that, right? Like most of their movies are pretty great.
Yeah, except for Cars 2, every Pixar at least is like a B
there's levels.
at a minimum.
But Pixar is automatically like greater than, but
best studio there is.
So it is. So Disney, it's like for a Disney animated thus far,
Yes.
it's not the cream of the crop.
No, and look, you can tell that the animations are all done by different people because every different place she goes is
style.
completely different style. You can't say that about Wizard of Oz.
That's true. I also had two other things I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
Like that were minor too for me, but they actually did kind of stand out. The first actually was the animation. As far as Alice herself, at the beginning of the film, like I actually was thinking, wow, once again, it's amazing that this came out in the 50s. It's beautiful. Like compare that to this live
decent animation.
It's a decent animation. Decent.
Yeah,
and as it went on, I'm like, okay, there's cool things here, but I'm remembering Bambi, I'm remembering Fantasia, I'm remembering Pinocchio, I'm remembering Cinderella, and I'm just like,
wait,
this is not
that
good.
No, look, the animation in this is very akin to the shorts
Yeah.
that Walt was doing at the time. And that makes sense because these are all really just vignettes that different animators are doing. Now, what's the best part of this movie? What's the best scene in this movie?
Best
There's
scene?
2 possible answers to this.
Well, I'll tell you my favorite.
Okay, what's your favorite?
My favorite's probably my favorite thing from when I was a kid. I mean, I love the Walrus and the Carpenter.
Okay, interesting.
I love the Walrus and the Carpenter.
Okay, I had forgotten about them completely. I don't think I ever even saw that before.
Oh yeah, I love
that. Was weird.
I always liked the Walrus and the Carpenter. When they eat the oysters, it's really dark.
Very dark.
That's funny.
Very dark. But I never knew that was a thing. I really don't remember that at all. I don't know if they did that in the 90s version or not.
I don't know. It's because it's the story that Tweedledee and Tweedledum tell her. So it's like it's a story within a story.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that one. I mean, I don't know. There's some pretty iconic scenes. The March Hare, Mad Hatter Tea Party scene is iconic.
Yeah.
Everything with the Queen's great.
Okay, so those are the 2 I think good answers.
Yeah.
Is the Queen, Tea Party.
But yeah.
The Queen, I think, is animated by far the best.
Also,
her scene, not just her specifically. But
also, I was trying to figure like the moral out and everything,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, so there is something going on with like the childishness of the Queen because everybody's topsy turvy, but the Queen is playing with almost a full deck of cards.
Ooh.
And everybody seriously, it's there. I never thought about that before. And everybody is betting to her, and so Alice has to kind of try to mimic her and figure out how to get on her good side.
She has to basically try and massage her.
Speak up like this. I will speak up like this. You know,
Yeah.
so it's kind of cool to see that match. So I feel like that's kind of when the movie is at its best because it actually finds a plot again. Like I have to do something
so,
again.
Okay,
you know.
so that to me is great for that reason, and also I think it's the best Yeah, I think it's
the cards are great.
Best animation. The cards, even the painting of the roses. I mean, all of that, which makes sense because I think it's the longest probably portion of the movie.
Yeah, 15
So it makes sense that that would be the most focused. But the other great one is the Tea Party. And I'll tell you why. And I didn't know this until I watched one of the features on here.
Made me laugh the most.
But here's why I love that so much. They did it live. And so what happened? Remember when I talked about Cinderella with you about how he used the live actors and stuff?
The rotoscoping.
Yes, with the rotoscoping. So they didn't quite do the rotoscoping with this. But what they did was Ed Wynn, who of course is Uncle Albert in Mary Poppins, one of my favorite Disney character actors.
Voice.
Yeah. So they had him and the gal that voiced Alice come in on a set and just riff and do bits. And so what happened was they were having such a great time that they tried to get Ed Wynn in the studio to basically try and recreate the moments, and they couldn't.
Oh.
They were so spontaneous in the moment, they literally, for the audio of that scene, went with the B-roll.
So they're animating their movements
So they're
on
animated,
the table.
yes.
That's cool.
And so that's why that scene is so freaking funny and cool. It's because they were just riffing.
Do you know what the laugh out loud moment was for me?
Tell me.
When he knows how to deal with the Mad Watch. Mad Watch!
I love
Mad
it.
Watch! The Mad Hair is great.
So good.
Yeah, March Hare is great.
Ed Wynn is one of my favorite Disney character actors. He always shows up and he's funny. And one of the other greats that I love that does the March Hare is Sterling Holloway, who does Winnie the Pooh.
I recognize some of those voices.
And Tim and I have seen him actually in several things because he did something in Ichabod. He did something in. He narrated one of the vignettes in one of the other shorts. So we've talked about Sterling Holloway on this channel several times recently. But yes, he's most known for his Winnie the Pooh voice. He did that into the 70s or 80s until he died.
Who voiced the rabbit? Was that him?
That was him.
Okay,
Yeah,
I thought
that
so
was him.
because he pops up in a lot of Disney films.
Yeah, he definitely does. So listen. So there's things I like about.
Well, I'm trying to get it also, but I'm not done.
That Mad Hatter scene I like. Okay, that's fine. I have other notes as well.
Okay, I just want to, before I forget.
Yeah.
Not that I want to bash it too much, but
I have another bash.
When we think about the classic Disney anime elements, I'm like, I'm listening to these songs and they're okay.
That was exactly what I was going to say.
They're okay. They're all right.
That was exactly what I was going to say.
They're kind of catchy. I remember them now, but like
I remember a couple of them. But like now again, I didn't really watch this growing up, but like we did have some of the Disney records that were like Disney greatest hits. Very Merry on Birthday is of course a classic. I'm Late is good. But like
very important date.
most of these I didn't think were that good.
They're okay.
Yeah, they're okay.
Well, they weren't very long. Like, the thing was, some of them
No,
are barely
they were
songs.
quick.
Like, somebody starts talking, and then there's a little music over
Right.
it, and it never becomes a full
Right.
thing. So there's a lot of half songs in this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But to compare it to Bibbidi Bobbidi
Bibbidi
Boo,
bobbidi.
to compare it to, I'm trying to think of some of the more recent ones. Like other than Cinderella, what have we seen recently? Well, Zippity Doo Dah, but let's not talk about that.
That's pretty catchy, I guess.
Zip Coon.
Uh-oh.
That I still can't get over that. I will never ever hear that song the same way again. By the way, do you know when Disney loans this movie out to people to do for plays in like middle school and high school, they sort of mesh it with another couple of Disney things,
Really?
and they do Zippity Doo Dah in it. Because they're not going to lend that song of the South, of course.
Probably not anymore.
So, probably not anymore.
I
would imagine not
anymore.
Well, schools aren't even in session anymore.
Well,
but,
when they go in session again, probably not.
I
Next
feel
year
like
or
next
something.
year, if people are doing Alice in Wonderland. Because I saw Alice in Wonderland at a local school 2 years ago, but it wasn't a musical version. It was just a play version.
Oh, okay.
And I was in Alice in Wonderland in maybe 6th grade, but I think that was only a play too. I don't think it was a musical.
Huh.
So I don't know. But anyway, so
Songs are meh.
Songs are meh. I didn't really care for them. Let's see. I think that's all. Everything we've talked about, I said in my notes. I don't have any more notes, positive or negative.
The most negative one I've been on so far.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. For me.
I mean, I like certain things about it a lot, but it didn't really pop for me consistently like most of the other ones.
Right.
Really. Even the ones I didn't think I was gonna like that much, going back to them, Bambi, Pinocchio, like.
Yeah.
I
This was
impressed.
definitely disappointing for me.
It was. For Disney, it was okay. It was all right.
Yeah, I think it was. Like I said, it's going to be slightly above average, but the worst of the ones we've done. Should we grade it before I talk about the DVD?
Did we grade it last? I forget. Do we forget how we do it?
I forgot. I think Cinderella we graded it last, but I don't think that's how we do it typically.
I forget.
I think we grade the movie and then I talk about the DVD. But I sort of like leaving everything to the end.
Okay,
so let's talk about the DVD.
We'll watch the end. Watch till the end of the video.
So
Find out the grades.
that way people can watch.
There you go.
Or just fast forward, I guess. Either way. So, all right. So the home video market. This was actually one of the first Disney movies on home video.
Oh, I saw
which
it.
makes sense because it was not a huge box office success.
80s, yeah.
So basically, so we had 1981. You had VHS and Beta for rent.
Beta.
Not for sale yet, but I have to actually do a separate video about this because let me tell you what format it was also on.
Why?
This CED video disc format that I had never heard of until today. Apparently there were thousands of movies that were released on it. Have you ever heard of this?
No, that's a collector's
It's like a
item.
record. So basically,
How do you play that?
you play it with a stylus like a record. Dude, I looked into it for like an hour today because I was so blown away.
Screen with it?
I guess it hooks in to your TV like a VCR would.
But it's played from a record to a TV?
It's not a record. It just plays like a record. Dude, I don't know. I gotta look into it. But apparently,
the heck?
there were a bunch. In fact, so on eBay, if I ever find one of these machines,
He's gonna buy
on
it.
eBay today, they had a lot of 13, mostly Disney movies, for $85 on this CED format. I might get it.
That's bizarre.
Because it's very bizarre. I've never heard of it. But most of the early Disney movies that were released on VHS were released on this CED thing. It lasted until 1986, everybody. So there's Back to the Future's on CED. Did you know that?
Now I do. What the heck is that?
You play it like a record. So the problem with it was you could only play a video about 500 times before it wore out. So you couldn't rent them. You couldn't rent them like at your video store.
Be limited.
Like you would with VHS. And then they were heavier than Laserdisc, so they were a little more cumbersome.
I'm sensing why these didn't catch on.
And it only fit less than 2 hours. So any movie that was like slightly over 2 hours, they would just edit so they didn't have to put 2 discs in the set. So you don't even get full movies.
Oh, that's bad. Oh.
So anyway,
We figured that mystery.
I think I'm gonna have to do a video at some point about this because I had never heard of it till today.
If you figure out how to work that, look it up. I want to just see how that works.
We should have a CED party. RCA was the main maker of CED, by the way.
Oh.
All right, and dude, we had like 2 betas. We had a couple VHSs. Like, my dad was into that kind of technology stuff. I guess maybe it was too expensive for us to have, but like, I wonder if I asked my dad if he would remember. CEDs were expensive.
Really?
Like Laserdiscs. We didn't have any Laserdiscs.
Laserdisc, yeah.
You know, they were slightly cheaper than Laserdisc, but still. So anyway, but this was released on a CED video disc.
Didn't help sell it to the public, I guess.
But so then it came out again in '86 with VHS, Betamax, and Laserdisc. God, I miss Betamax. And then not again until 2000, they did the Gold Classic Collection. This was one of the first ones on that. And that had some of the special features for the first time. Then a 2004 Masterpiece Edition. And then this is the one I have, the 2009 Unanniversary Edition. And then since then it's come out twice on DVD and Blu-ray. And what's nice about these DVDs is most of the time the former bonus features will be then transferred to the new version. Not always. We've had a couple instances of that so far where it's like, I missed out on something because I didn't get the one directly before it or whatever.
Gotcha.
But this has everything on it that the previous versions had.
Nice.
It's 2 discs, and there's a ton of stuff. So, disc 1, there's a 13-minute feature called Reflections on Alice that basically has interviews with some of the people involved, including the voice of Alice.
Nice.
And some of that. There's a 3-minute deleted scene in there, an unreleased Cheshire Cat song, which also was only okay.
Do you like him?
I like the Cheshire Cat,
Okay,
yeah.
I
Cheshire
like
Cat's
Cheshire
cool.
Cat, okay.
The 1936 Through the Mirror cartoon with Mickey
Nice.
is part of it. And then a bunch of games, for kids to play. I didn't really look into too much with that. But so then disc 2 is all of the more like vault stuff, the more stuff for like me. Not really that kids are going to care about.
History.
So you've got the Alice in Wonderland Alice comedy from 1923. There is all of the theatrical release trailers, which again was only a couple, and then the Disney TV intros that Walt did, which I always love to see. There was an Operation Wonderland feature that I guess maybe was serviced to distributors. It basically was a look into the animation and like the studio and Walt like interviewing the animators and like, what scene are you working on?
Well,
Jim, and and then he holds it up. I don't know where they would have shown this because it was, before TV. I guess maybe to exhibitors or stockholders or something.
Yeah, like at a meeting.
But it's cool if they hold on to this stuff. So then there's an abandoned content for the film. So there was one song, this was interesting, that they didn't use for Alice that ended up getting reworked and a bit reworded and is in Peter Pan.
Really?
The song about the second star or whatever. It's one of the popular Peter Pan songs. It originally started as an Alice song. And then there's some other stuff with that that they didn't end up getting to, some song demos and whatever. But then for me, the TV historian, 2 very, very interesting things.
Okay.
So 1951, The Fred Waring Show. Never heard of it.
What?
But it seems to me like a Lawrence Welk sort of like big band type show where you have this orchestra leader and he leads the band in the song and then all the old ladies love it. But this one episode, he dedicated a half hour to talking to Walt, talking to the gal that plays Alice, talking to Ed Wynn, talking to Sterling Holloway.
All right, I've got a theory, Dan.
Tell me.
Either this guy or his network was a big fan, or they were like, "This is popular. We got to get ratings. Tell them about the movie. Promote it."
I think Walt was sort of discovering how TV could be effective in promotion.
Nice.
Because the other thing that's on here is a 1950 special.
50.
Around Christmas time, so a few months before this came out, called 1 Hour in Wonderland. And first of all, quality on this is pristine. The Disney people hold on to their things so well. But it was shot on film, so it's pretty easy, I guess, to clean it up. But it was a 1 hour special, and the whole special's on here. And it's basically some of the live action people from other Disney stuff like that me and Tim did. Like there's a ventriloquist and his dummy, and like a couple other characters that I had seen previously on some of these other things. And it was an hour-long special basically featuring some of the Disney greatest hits. They had one of the songs from Snow White. they had one of the songs from Dumbo, mixed in with stuff from, here's what's coming out next year from Disney. Here's the new, oh, you like the story Alice in Wonderland? Let's show you some of the, and it was like rough, like black and white animation stuff, but it was just, it's so interesting to watch this stuff. As
like a very
TV
early
historian.
promo for movies.
It really was. Like basically, they bought the time in association with Coca-Cola, actually.
And
so Coca-Cola sponsored
product placement.
Wow. There's a Coke ad right at the beginning when they go to this Christmas party. Oh, do you want a nice refreshing Coca-Cola?
When you see the theater, make sure you get a nice Coca-Cola when you're watching Alice in Wonderland.
So it was just it's so cool that they have this kind of stuff.
Beginnings of modern
here, so.
Film marketing right there through TV. That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and all of the old TV shows were sponsored.
Of course.
Lucy was sponsored by the cigarette people.
Was that always the way it was, or did some studios?
Yeah, because that started in radio.
Oh.
The Amos and Andy show brought to you by so and so.
Lovely cigar.
$64,000 question brought to you by. Yeah, I mean,
okay.
Instead of having like they do now, where they break it up and have 3 minutes of commercials. They might have some commercials for random products that the person would say, but
one company would really promote this show for their products.
It would be their product.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So that's that. Coca-Cola decided to go in with Walt on that. To me, it's very interesting.
Sounds like it.
But yes, I grade the DVD much higher than the movie itself. Let's be clear about that. So, what do we think about the movie? For me, I teeter between like a C plus and a B minus. Like
that seems harsh.
Do you think?
It's still Disney. It's still animated. Like
it's still Disney, but
every movie. Look, this is the thing.
Tell me.
Every movie you've been like, man, you gave Cinderella like what, an A?
Cinderella was great.
I
did give Cinderella.
Let's think about this.
Cinderella
an A, Alice in Wonderland a C plus. Let's think about that for a second.
All right, here's the problem.
That much of a discrepancy?
The hodgepodge that this movie is.
Man.
It
is messed
up. If it
up.
was more billed like some of those featurette ones that Tim and I did, Make Mine Music and all that kind of stuff. If it was billed more like that,
not as like a full.
I think I would have different feelings on it. But this is billed as one cohesive movie, and it's not. It's just not. There's no heart to it. Some of the scenes are great. Listen, the Mad Hatter scene's great. The red and white queen scene is great.
Man.
And some of the characters are fun. The Cheshire Cat's all right. The caterpillar's good. The rabbit's okay.
The door was good. Oh, you the wrong turn, eh? Pretty good for a door. One good turn deserves another. Come on.
The door's good. I'm not giving the movie an F. But I think B minus is actually. I can see why the critics did not like this movie when it first came out.
I want to give it a higher grade, but
the songs.
I can't.
Tell me other than freaking Unbirthday Song. Tell me a song in the movie. I just watched it today and I can't do it.
I like The Walrus and the Carpenter. That's a classic story. Walrus and the Carpenter walking hand in hand, and
That's a good parable.
That's a good story.
But
that's a good moral if you're an oyster, huh? But,
where does it fit though? It's a vignette. This movie is a vignette movie disguised as a full-length feature.
Okay, help me out.
Tell me.
What is the lesson she's supposed to learn? That's what I'm trying. Is it too much nonsense? Don't let your imagination pay
don't
attention.
Don't be such a silly head and a dreamer, I guess, and pay more attention.
But I don't think she was mean spirited. She wants to go home. But I just try to figure out why she deserves to. I don't. That's what I'm saying. I don't quite.
I just don't think she's that. I don't think she's that likable of a protagonist. She's okay.
She's all right. But she's a little bratty.
She's constantly confused about.
To be fair, everybody in that
what she sees
is a jerk to her, though. They're all messing with her. They aren't being helpful.
Tweedledee, Tweedledum are all right.
The flowers were mean.
Yeah, flowers were jerks.
The dodo was
Mad Hatter was pretty mean.
Burn her alive. Queen was actually pretty nice to her. All things considered.
Actually, yeah.
Mostly.
Some of her names were all right.
Yeah. I really was thinking.
I feel like the Mock Turtle's good, but guess what? Walt excised him from the movie.
Oh. It's like nobody,
he's in some other iterations of it, and he was in the book, but he's not in the movie.
Like that's the thing. Also, it's kind of mean spirited. Like most of them are kind of mean to her.
Yeah, I suppose it's a little different from Oz in that respect. Oz, other than the Wicked Witch and the monkeys, she meets mostly really helpful people.
Mostly.
These guys are not that helpful. Although the Cheshire Cat
actually helps her out.
Does help her.
When remember when everybody else is leaving her, she's in the dark. Cheshire Cat saves the day.
So you've got that classic Whoopi.
Cheshire Cat.
I wish it was.
Well, that's the thing. There are some iconic moments. I mean, like late, off with his head, like this.
Yeah,
this
there's some very iconic moments, but
it's
those moments. Well, right, those moments come directly from the book. So if you show me any other iteration of this thing, I think it's going to be better. Did the Muppets do this one too?
I think so.
I know they did Treasure Island. Tim and I talked about that.
Muppet Treasure Island is great.
And they did Oz, of course.
Well, all right. Like so you're not. So is this with a curve? That's why it's getting the B minus? Like.
No, look, I think
C+.
it genuinely deserves a slightly above average grade. I don't think that's on a curve. I think that is legit. I think that's legit because there are some good things about it. But there's a lot of not good about it too. I think the animation is very, like I said, it's more akin to his shorts than his features because of all the different directors. I mean, it would be like when Dorothy goes to Oz and each person she meets is directed by a different person.
There are different costumes.
It would be crazy, wouldn't it?
But I mean, that's Wonderland. It would be wacky. It wouldn't be that coherent.
It would be wacky.
It wouldn't be that coherent.
It would be wacky. But I find the Dodo sequences in Looney Tunes to be more appealing than this. He's wacky.
Yeah, you're right. The thing is, I don't have a strong argument. I didn't really love it that much.
No.
And I was surprised. I'm like, maybe I'm missing something because I don't.
You're definitely not. I can see why critics did not like it initially.
Well, all right,
I don't know why they reversed their course because it's Disney, I guess.
You talked me down a little.
What were you going to give it, a B plus or something?
Maybe like a B plus. Yeah,
B plus is too high for this movie.
All right. Well, I thought. All right, you talked me down.
Right, we now have 1 minute on the camera.
B minus. I'm giving it a B minus.
So let's end it there. We both are going to give it a B minus.
Okay.
I agree to a B minus.
Pretty bad.
This though,
the DVD.
I'll give the DVD like an A for the historical value of it.
Okay.
The picture was okay on it, but the movie contained inside does not deserve an A. But just the 1923 Alice cartoon by itself is amazing to see. But then all the other stuff that goes with it, they do pack a punch into their DVDs. I'll give them that.
With the features.
Yes. So it looks like that is it.